This time on Custom Works, more making, more breaking, more madness. Let's get to the workshop. Okay, so this time on Custom Works, we're going to be looking at the back of the Meat Wagon, the smallest kitchen in the world, in the back of the coolest van. And also we're going to be looking at pop-up headlight from last week, and we're going to be clearing up some of the rumours, hearsay and conjecture therefore of that project. The wagon of the meat. So, we've been doing quite a bit, and we've got quite a bit done. We've got all the door shuts painted. They're painted in the original colour the van would have been. Yeah, well, whatever, you know. What underneath all this rust and dust, that is the colour. And this has been 2K clear coated in a matte clear. But that's starting to look pretty good. I did a bit of sort of wear and tear on the inside. And that is looking pretty good. Also, I finally painted the inside of this door, which is the door leading into the kitchen area. And this has been coated in a matte 2 clear as well, and it's come up with it's got just such a lovely sort of finish to it. It's nicer than it deserves to be. Inside the van, we've done lots of painting. Now there are some bits that don't need to be clad in stainless steel or are of very complex shapes. All of this has been painted in a base coat silver, and then I've just gone over it with the matte 2K clear that again is giving it just such a lovely sort of finish to it. Jobs coming up that we're going to do. We need to line this box in stainless steel, so I've got a load of stainless steel and we're ready to do that. And these walls need to be clad in stainless steel and up to the ceiling, although not the ceiling, that's painted and that's all looking nice as well. I've also done the like the pedestal thing for the sink is all painted and nice. Some of those shapes back there are really complicated, but wherever we can we're going to coat that in stainless. But in a way the paint is good enough, it's a nice hardware and it's automotive, it's good in the heat and everything. So all the stuff that's been painted up to now, even though we've used the matte 2K, the matte 2K is very sort of impervious. It has got a little bit of a sheen to it, so it's really wipeable and cleanable, and works well in this sort of food prep environment. So then, I've got a lot of stainless steel, we've got a lot of area to cover, so I'm going to get some of that stainless steel and we're going to do some of that, and I'm going to probably practice cutting it with a plasma cutter because it's very thin, so I think I might get a super clean cut. I don't know, it's like everything, if you don't give it a go, you never know. Right, so the stainless steel we're going to be using, we got this stainless steel, it's quite expensive, but here it is. We've got that like engine turnstile, which is like just so hot rod and so cool. And I think it's gonna really set off the inside of the Meat Wagon once we've got all that in there. Like I say, I'm hoping the plasma cutter will do the big cuts on this. Fingers crossed. Or else I need to put an order in for a lot, and I mean a lot, of superfine cutting discs. I'm looking at all this stainless steel and I know I've got loads to cut out, so I need an easy way to do it. Now, yes, if I had a guillotine this would be easier. I haven't got a guillotine, but what I have got is a plasma cutter, and I have already tried this and I get a pretty clean edge off the plasma cutter. When you think this is going into an internal corner and we'll have a beader like silicone sealer on that corner, that is good enough. And I don't get any heat distortion either. If I cut this with the grinder, it would get a lot hotter than with the plasma cutter, and I'd probably get some warpage. This way I'm getting no warping, no nothing, and it's cutting easy. So basically all I've got to do now is make a lot of templates, take a lot of measurements and just keep covering all them bits until everything is covered. Let's cut some stainless. this, I'm doing it with the protective stuff on. That doesn't seem to make any difference either. It doesn't melt to it, it doesn't stick, and I just get my nice clean edge, and that's it. This is working out better than I thought. Stainless is really hard to work. Great, let's get it done. So then, inside the van, I have started the cladding process. And at the minute, all I've done is cladded this for the coffee machine, because that's one of the things that's got to sort of go in pretty soon. At the minute, it's still got the protective covering on it, but underneath, this like lovely engine turned stainless effect. So, I've done that. So I've also started to make some templates and some bits to clad over all of this. Now, what you've got to think is all these edges will have some silver sort of like sealant on them. So all the edges will be sealed. So I do get a little bit of leeway there on how good it's got to be. External corners though, no leeway at all. This has got to be one piece of metal meeting up with another piece of metal to perfection. So I think there's going to be a lot of cutting, grinding, trimming, regrinding, sanding, just to make all these parts work. And basically over the next week or so, that's all I'm going to do in here. I'm just going to be covering as much as I can in stainless steel and getting all the edges nice and stuff like that. Right, so on these cupboards, I'm going to cover the whole thing in stainless, but I want little cubby holes. Obviously I've already made this bit, you know what I mean, I might as well finish it off. And just as a quick sort of experiment, I hand cut this with the plasma, and then I've put this chrome trim on it, and it will sit over like this so things don't fall out, but there's a nice chrome trimmed hole you can put things in and out, but there's a good lip, so where you when you're driving along, if this isn't too full, loads of stuff won't fall out. So I'll probably make a template for the whole thing, mark out where these are, mark my shapes that I want to cut out, plasma those out, edge them up, and then bond all that as one piece on there, covering all of this. So the whole thing is one seamless piece of stainless, albeit with these holes for loading stuff in and out. And that lip I think is really going to help with the fact that, you know, this is a kitchen that's going to move. So yeah, my test experiment has gone good, so that's what I'm going to do. That's the way I'm going to do it. And of course the insides of these will be painted in the sort of grey fiberglass top coat, so that they are absolutely impervious to water. It can be cleaned out and everything can be kept, you know, super hygienic. Right, so started putting some of this lovely engine turned stainless steel on. Quite time consuming though, just to get the edges to butt together so that there's no sort of dirty edging strips. It does take a bit of time, but I think it's gonna be totally worth it when it's done. Soon, almost everything in here will be clad in this stainless. So it's going to be you know, really good for cooking, putting the heat to the meat or whatever, and it's going to look pretty awesome as well. So then, gullwing doors on the Meat Wagon. They're fiberglass, they are bolted to the Meat Wagon, and I'm not going to take them off, but I've got to make all of this look a bit nicer. Now, at the minute, that's just the back of the fiberglass. I have nibbed over it with the grinder just to take any sort of woolly bits off, but I need a finish on there that's going to look good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to paint it with stone fleck paint. This sort of stuff that, like, you paint a plastic lamp and make it look like concrete. I don't know, whatever. I'm going to paint all under here in that. Now, I like this stuff just a bit more than doing it in like a short sort of stone chip. Short sort of stone chip, you know someone's trying to hide something. With this, it seems more like a decorative finish. I'm going on in that colour. If the colour looks okay, I'll leave it. If not, you can always paint over this stuff. Like I've said before, it looks great if you're trying to make something that you're going to do a fake chrome effect on, look as if it's been sandcast. It just works well, and it just tidies up bits that would be so hard to tidy up. Like if this was going to be a show vehicle, of course I'd take this off and we'd bodywork the inside of it, you know, and it'd take like 2 weeks to do. And it is doable. But on a vehicle like this, you know, it's going to be selling burgers. It's a working truck. So all we need on there is just a nice finish that tidies everything up and looks pretty cool. So I think I've got a bit of masking to do. I'll get on with that and then we'll see how this paint looks. So here's my sample piece that I did. I did the that stone fleck paint out the can. I put that on here, and then I've gone over it in a 2K matte clear, and it's just come out so good. It makes the fleck paint not so sort of dry and, you know, like holding dirt. I think this would actually be wipeable, and that's what I've done now. Underside of the 2 gull wing doors on the Meat Wagon. You know, it's hidden a lot of sins. It's just made them look nice and smart, but without the hassle of taking the whole door off and then bodyworking the inside of the door, which would have been incredibly expensive and time consuming. But this really has, it's made a great finish. And here it is, from like just from rough fiberglass to like a finished thing that looks easily smart enough for the inside of the door in the back of a van. Yeah, it's come out really good. And I'm sensing, is this an adequate tip? I think it is. I think stone fleck paint, adequate tip for making them odd little scruffy bits on a project look good without too much effort. So last time we were working on that pop-up headlight. Well, I've done a bit more. Not a lot more, but I've done a bit more, and I'm going to just address a few comments we had about the sort of like the construction and stuff. Here it is. So all those bits and bobs have now been glassed, and all the seams have got some glass over them, so we shouldn't have any crack in there. And I've glassed the back. This now needs cutting out so it opens again. I also changed it as well from last week, so it actually opens at the swage line now, so the whole front of the wing opens up. And that'll make for a lot cleaner finish once it's done. I won't have to have a gap there, and then the thing that I can just hide the gap basically in the crease, as it were. And underneath this has all been glassed on. Now it's not glassed around here because that bit's going to move obviously, and when that's finished, as it closes, it'll close into like a warp. Not watertight, but sort of a water reducing rebate. All of this has been glassed and it is really solidly into that wing. What I will have to do when this is done is make a way. At the minute this is fixed to the mechanism, so I'll have to make a way that the top flap, as it were, that covers in, I'll have to make something so that is detachable, and then we can take the mechanism out, fiberglass all inside, fit the micro switches in the mechanism, fit all that back in, and it all bolts back in and comes up good. Now a few people have said, why did I make it in wood? Well, you see, here in the UK they salt the roads, and anything in steel rots like really quick unless it's galvanised. Well, the modern cars are fine, they've got like a galvanised coating, but anything just in steel is going to rust. And under a wing like this, there's no real way you can stop it. You can cover it in, you know, loads of different coatings, but the water will get behind there in the end. And when I use plywood, I always cover every millimetre of the plywood in fiberglass. And this is how boats are made. And boats spend most of their lives in salt water, and they don't rot. So I'm going with the boat method, the salty water vehicle method, rather than the vehicle that's going to go rusty on our wet, salty British roads. Also in the comments, people saying that these headlights don't look very good on the car, and God, I'm absolutely in agreement with you. They look terrible when they're up. But the reason they're there is so the car has lights and gets through the UK MOT. And the reason they're hidden is because we don't want to see them within that sort of asymmetric design we've got going on. But the asymmetric design could never, ever go on the roads in the UK. You just can't have 4 headlights on one side and nothing on the other. It'd never work. So these pop-up headlights have been a way to make it legal, but also make it absolutely mental. And sometimes to do that, that's what you've got to do. And thinking back, there's probably not been that many asymmetric cars ever built in the UK. And I think this is the reason why. Just because the law says you can't do it, doesn't mean there's not a way around that you can do it. And that's what this is. So the front of the 60s truck is literally just like a folly, a facade, whereas the real lights are hidden here, and this is the way we get round our, I don't know, they're probably sensible at the end of the day. You really should have 2 headlights, shouldn't you? You know, so I can't complain about the law too much. But this is the way we get around those laws. So, just to reiterate they're only there to be up at night, or if you're on a dark country road, and you can pop those up and you can see, and to get it through our MOT. Other than that, other than here on this programme, if you ever see this truck, I doubt you'll ever even know they're there. We also had some other comments last week that maybe we could make the lights line up. You know, with a bit of work, you maybe could, and maybe sort of actuate this part of the front end. But at the end of the day, I don't want any lights in here. What's going in here has got a lot of chrome and like diamond crystals. It's going to light up sequentially, come on and off. This is a real special part of the vehicle. So yeah, I probably could get some lights in there. It's not really what I want. And that, at the end of the day, is why I'm not going to do that. I just want this bit to be like just like a jewellery box on the front of the car. And that is also a reason why we're going with the pop-up headlights that you'll never actually see pop up. Okay then, so we're going to cut that light out now. What I'm using 2 thin cutting discs together, because that gives more like a panel gap sort of width, or at least it gives you a great starting point. I find sometimes if you just use the 0.8mm cutting disc, yeah, you get the crack, but it's too tight. So the double disc works a lot better. And also on that, where the actual thing pivots, if it pivots there, I'm going to overshoot a little bit. So say this is the pivot, this bit drops down, and then that will always drop down and under this panel, which is the top of the wing. That will always drop down, rather than if it's there directly over the pivot, you can get a lot of that sort of, you know, catching thing. But that will always drop down and swing away from the top of the wing, and it should always open nicely, and that way we can achieve a really sort of uniform panel gap all the way around the light. A little bit of foul in there, and I've had to cut some bits out which have just fell in there. It's all working now, so what I now have got to do is try to get to these screws that I put in when this was just an open box, make all the fixings accessible from the top, and basically just get it to bits again. But the action now, just to how it sits down in the wing, you know, I've got more than enough to work with here to like body work this out and get this looking perfect. And the fit and the panel gap already is quite good. And you know, just for this rough stage, I'm more than happy with that. So I'll get it open, get that thing out, we'll get some micro switches on it and then start to piece this back together. When I say I'm going to do it, I'll actually just give it to Hot Rod legend Lee Cox and he'll sort that bit. And notice as well how easy this has been because I've got the top of the wing off. It's just been amazing to do. Making it like this so you can do it more on the bench has been great, and even like on this underside where it's all fully glass now, you know, I did all of that on the bench and just so much easier than being under the wheel arch, you know, sort of upside down fiberglass, in which not even I like. But yeah, it's coming on good. Next thing, let's get that mechanism out. Okay, and so that's it for this week. Our Etsy shop has been down, so no one's been able to buy a t-shirt. But now you can buy a t-shirt by clicking on the link in the main banner, or this will tell you how to do it. Anyway, I'll be back next week with more Meat Wagon madness, more crazy stuff with cars. And until then, I thank you very much and good night. And one other thing, there is someone who is never seen on this channel, but has helped us out and certainly helped me out on a lot of projects and a lot of laser cutting and stuff in the past. So, boom! Big shout out to Carl. Thank you for all your help.